San Francisco Bay Area exodus. We've got wealthy residents departing, which is worsening the doom loop fears. Been talking a lot about the doom loop. The doom loop being something that kind of started with the pandemic, emptied out all of the businesses from downtown cores, told everybody, hey, you can work from home, work remotely, wherever you want forever. It's going to be great. It's going to be a utopia. Well, that didn't really work out, did it? Now the businesses are like big corporations. Yeah, we need your ass back in the downtown corporate office. We need that synergy. We need that collaborative effort that we can't get when you're working remotely. A lot of folks are saying, no, I don't want to come into the downtown. I don't want to commute. I don't want to be there. It's just not for me. And a lot of businesses are saying, yeah, we don't really need all this space. So you got businesses not wanting to sublease, all these things that are creating this doom loop. And as cities lose more and more of their tax base, their tax structure from having all these businesses in the downtown core, they're less and less able to keep up public safety, all the stuff that makes a downtown structure go because you don't have the money. So you got this doom loop. It's just going to keep on going. Another component of that we haven't touched on, we've touched on in Portland. Portland's basically got the same thing going on, but in a different structure because it's more of a suburban type community. Its downtown is Portland and San Francisco. They're probably some of the two worst downtown cores as far as coming back after the pandemic. And we know this from studies based on cell phone activity. Hey, how many people you got in downtown? Not very many. So what is the exodus of the wealthy in San Francisco? What's that looking like? Let's jump on into it. Let's get into it. Here we go. The growing exodus could exacerbate economic challenges for Bay Area downtowns. Wealthier residents liberated from the office by remote work are leaving the Bay Area at a higher rate than before the pandemic, a trend that could exacerbate a dreaded economic doom loop. I think some of that it's overblown, but just saying doom loop, whenever you say doom, I'm into it because I used to play Doom, the game, a lot. When my kids were little and you got little kids that are, ankle biters and they're dragging at you. They want you to do stuff. And you got to watch cartoons with them. Well, you need a real break from that. And as an adult, I played a lot of Doom, first person shooter game. You were fighting the demons from hell on Mars, I think it was. I don't know. It was epic. It was great. I loved it. Doom. And this is for the region's slowly recovering job centers and downtown cores. This is happening all across the United States. With the whole work from home deal with the pandemic, we saw a massive shift. Companies are like, hey, we don't need as much real estate in downtown. We don't need to lease as much commercial space. So you've got all these things going on that are happening right now. So you've got some destabilized banks, some regional mid-tier banks, because those are the ones that are leasing on commercial. How's that working out, do you think? How long-term is that going to work out? I think you're on the front end of seeing massive failures in commercial office space. I do. I'm a residential real estate guy, but what we are seeing, it's kind of inevitable which way this is going to go. And it's not necessarily for the better. Now, San Francisco is like Portland, is like Seattle. It's got some other stuff happening to its downtown core as well, where you've got homelessness that just exploded. These cities are trying to reel that back in. They also decriminalized drugs. Hey, it's okay. You want to shoot up heroin? You want to do some fentanyl? You want to smoke some meth? You want to get your meth on? Go for it. And, by the way, if you want to keep doing that, it's fine. All you got to do is go out and rob from the community, rob from the stores. And then you go right back into where you buy your drugs and you sell your stolen goods. And right there, you got a one-stop shopping center like the UN Plaza in San Francisco. We all know that to be true. The Tenderloin, just loaded with this kind of stuff, right? So in 2021, households earning more than 150 grand, boy, that is poverty level in San Fran, made up 32% of all those moving out of the 9-county Bay Area, up from 27.6% in 2019. So you've got numbers moving up pretty substantially. So according to analysis of census data, by the Bay Area Council Economic Institute. Although most of those departing are lower income residents struggling to afford the region's high housing costs and living expenses, the uptick in wealthy households moving out is beginning to strain local tax bases, said Abby Reyes, the Institute's research director. This is the kind of stuff that I enjoy looking at, the guts of it, the underlying what's going to happen next. And so you've got all these factors in these cities that just kind of point to, that's not going to work out. It's like, here's your sign. Everybody wants to point to all the, okay, so it's some crazy, crazy Democrat policy. It's progressive policy. It's like the book behind me, San Francisco. Here's why progressives destroy cities. You're watching it unfold, right? You are literally watching it unfold. Two varying levels. San Francisco being a big example, Portland being another example. LA, yeah, not good. Seattle, yeah, you got the same policies. It's like, how'd we get here? Well, the voters, residents of said cities said, do this, do this, do this. And they enacted these laws. Here you go. Here's your sign. And one of the major things with San Francisco right now is people are trying to say, you know what? Our crime levels really aren't that bad. We're actually below the level across the United States. Well, and maybe in murder rate, yeah, but then you're comparing yourself to like Detroit, St. Louis, some real murder capitals, right? And what you've got in San Francisco, like these other West Coast towns, and like Chicago, is you've got an underreporting of criminal activity. You've got an underreporting of crime on a massive, massive scale. Because what's the point of reporting these crimes if there isn't enough police to cover them? And if they don't get prosecuted, and even if they do get prosecuted, you basically got a catch and release system with the judges on the other end. So why would this get any better? Well, and this is a process that's going to take a long time, if ever, to right itself. So here you go. You've got the implications are really serious, Rate said. We have to start thinking pretty creatively to break this cycle. How about you make your streets safe again? How about you get rid of some of these influences? You put people in jail. You demand people go to rehab. You demand folks that have mental issues, but you don't have the resources to do that. Not even in a San Francisco, not even in a Portland, Oregon. You don't have the resource to do that. Portland, Oregon has some of the worst addiction issues of anywhere in the country. And it's also got the state of Oregon has the worst ability to get its residents the help in the addiction, that they need. Can't get them into a center. You can't get them in. We don't really want to deal with that. We feel like everybody should have free will. They'll go to rehab when they need to. Well, how's that working out? Downtowns across the Bay Area grappling with how to respond to shuttered businesses and empty office buildings are also facing less money flowing into public budgets for essential services and transit. Transit, that's how people get into the downtown core, right? Yeah, that's not going great. The multiple challenges could leave cities trying to dig out of a deeper hole amid a time of economic uncertainty. So you've got all these factors that are just creating these perfect examples of, yeah, we saw that one coming and we're just watching it unfold. It's pretty wild. I mean, it's entertaining if you've been talking about it for a while. It's kind of like that whole defund the police thing. When that become just the rage in 2020, don't hear a lot about that anymore, do you? No, you don't hear about that at all. Why? Because it was a terrible, horrific idea from the standpoint of, if you want to defund the police and you've got something else better to replace the police with as far as keeping public safety going, all right, I'll talk about it. I'll look at it. Let's look at the studies. Look at what we got. But they didn't. We're just like, defund the police by 50% now. That's what the jokers over at Chop and Chaz in Seattle wanted, right? That's literally what they wanted. Yeah. Now, anybody who knows anything about how cities work and government and policing, you don't need fewer cops. You need more cops. You need more cops. It's just, you do. And so we are there now. San Francisco is there now. Portland is there now. Seattle is there now. Even in a liberal bastion like Seattle. Our mayor at the time during 2020, Jenny Durkin, I know everybody loves to kick her about because a lot of her policy is to blame for what we've got going on. But even back then, she was saying, I don't think we really want to defund the police, because she knew that when you do that, you've got less cops on the street, criminal activity rises. And what has happened to these cities since we've defunded the police? How has that gone? What happened? Yeah, crime elevated. Maybe not murders in San Francisco. Sure had murders in Portland. Portland's got twice the number of murders as San Francisco, and it's a smaller town. It's wild, right? Yeah, you got some gang activity where people are just shooting each other left and right. That's what you had. Between 2019 and 2021, San Francisco metro areas, which includes the East Bay and Peninsula, saw its population fall 2.3%. Yeah, people leaving. While San Jose's population dropped 1.9%, a collective loss of 147,000 residents. Now, that might not sound like a lot when you've got total population in California, like 30 million, 35 billion, something like that. But what it is you've got people leaving instead of net gain in migration, right? You got people leaving for said reasons. Never mind, you've got, whatever percentage, is it 15% in, total taxes, state income tax, and all those other taxes you've got. It's a big whack before you even, on your paycheck, before you even get into the federal taxes. And what are you getting? A lot of people would say nothing. That's why we're leaving. And that's exactly what you've got going on, which contributes to this doom loop. You've got fewer people. Fewer people means less tax base. Less tax base means it just gets worse and worse. Yeah, it's that doom loop. More people moved away, but a decrease in births, increased deaths, and fewer people migrating into the region were also factors. During that period, the median household income in the San Francisco area fell 4.6 to 116 grand a year, according to a recent census report. So that means median, meaning that's the halfway point. Half of the data, are raised to less than 116. Half of the data is more than 116. This is reflecting the loss of high income earners, often seeking out more affordable places, offering a different lifestyle. Data for San Jose was not included in the report. So you got people with good incomes. Now they're being told, hey, you can work remotely wherever you want. They go do that. Their employers say, you know what? Psych. Remember when you used to say that? Psych. And it was kind of one of those, I caught you. It's not really what we're doing, but you got me to, I got you to believe what I was saying. Psych. We need you back in downtown. Yeah. We need that corporate synergy. We need that, we need the whole team together. We need to get the band back together. How's that going? Here in, it's not going all that well, by the way. You've got somewhere between a 29% and a 32% vacancy rate in downtown San Francisco. You're going to have some real issues with that down the road, because that tax base is, you're bleeding out. You're bleeding out businesses. You're bleeding out revenue. It's not going to go all that great. While the region's downward population trend slowed significantly last year, owing to a spike in international immigration, don't get me started, after it plummeted during COVID. It's because you got all these people being bussed into San Fran, right? You got people being bussed into San Fran, all these sanctuary cities. And you know what? These folks being bussed in, they're selling some drugs. You know where you see that? Portland. Hondurans in Portland. Willamette Week article that kind of went through and just highlighted what's going on, who is selling the fentanyl in Portland. It was just a lot of these folks were, I don't know if they were illegal. It didn't really state. It just stated who was selling it. It's like, oh, that's interesting, because in a sanctuary city, you're not going to take these people and export them. We love them all. Just bring them on. Bring them on. Coming across the southern border. It's all good. That's the attitude they had. Now they've got these folks selling drugs that are killing their residents within their own communities. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. The shift to remote work means more white-collar employees could continue saying goodbye to the Bay Area. Yeah, and rightfully so, because you've got issues galore in San Francisco opening up on the weekly. We've had Bob Lee get murdered by another tech worker. We had San Francisco fire commissioner get assaulted, whacked in the head with a metal rod. You've got Whole Foods shutting down. You've got Safeway shutting down. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. You've got the UN plazas just overrun as an open air drug market. You got the Tenderloin in a state of emergency. You got the mayor declaring states of emergency. You got the mayor saying, hey, we need federal money. We are overrun with craziness here in San Francisco. And yet certain entities continue to say, there's nothing going on here. There's nothing wrong here. It's all good. Look at the stats. Look at the crime stats. Got low murder rate. It's like, okay, yeah. Do you think maybe there's a chance that not all the criminal activity is being reported? Because it's not. So this is true for Saj Kumar, 50. We're talking about saying goodbye to the Bay Area, who works as an advertising and branding consultant for tech companies and owns a home in Livermore. He and his wife are considering moving elsewhere in the mountains in Arizona or New Mexico, where they can buy a less expensive home and put away the savings for early retirement. Good plan. I mean, rich dad, poor dad he'd say, 2 thumbs up, way to go. And I think that was the big opportunity a lot of people saw, and they took it. And you know what? They're going to figure out a way to make that work because they've seen what they can have lifestyle wise elsewhere. Housing in San Francisco, crazy town. And it's always been crazy town for housing prices, right? I was reading back in the 1970s how it was just super affordable. There was a lot of these big, nice Victorian homes. Well, they were nice at one time. They were in some kind of disrepair. People were buying them up left and right, and you didn't have that massive expensive housing that you do now that started to really ramp up in the 80s. And how I was impacted by it in the 80s is that Seattle we were cheap. You could buy a nice house. One of the first homes that I appraised was a little rambler, little single story home near where I live now. It's called, what's the community? It's something out of, I can't remember, but, I'll think of it. You got senior moment. It was a small rambler. I think it was 990 square feet. Well, probably would have been 1985. I was still in high school. I got my driver's license. And so I'm out in the field looking at properties, just, vacant stuff and really easy cookie cutter type stuff, 990 square feet. So I'm looking at this house and it was pending a sale at 150 and it had been 75 grand just a year or two earlier. It was and so I'm asking the owner he was a builder. He was a framer of some sort. This is in a nice, decent area of East Bellevue where I live now. And it had doubled in price it was a year or two, something where I had to ask him, hey, did you do a major remodel? Cause it doesn't seem like it. And he's like, no. He goes, California buyer came in and said, for 150, I'll take this all day long. Cause it was a decent home. It wasn't far from downtown Bellevue. Wasn't that far of a commute via 520 to downtown Seattle. And relative in the mid 80s, what housing cost in San Francisco, Bellevue, where I live, dirt cheap. Cause you'd had houses at 75 grand, which in other communities back then would have been, 25 grand, 35 grand. 45 grand, but we saw the jump from 75 to 150. So you had all these people coming from San Francisco, coming from the Bay Area, coming from LA that are like, I'll take 2. And they're still doing that because housing here in Seattle is still more affordable than what you got going on in San Francisco, to the point where people are leaving in droves because it's so expensive. And if they can work remotely from somewhere else, hey, if it's a quick plane flight into downtown where I got to go there once a month, I'm going to do that all day long because now I can afford a good house and start talking about retirement, that early retirement. I'm never going to retire. I'm convinced. What would I do? Would I just sit around? I mean, Sean, you'll find lots to occupy your, like what? Knitting? I don't know. According to the Outcome Institute's report, the top destinations for people leaving the region are still in California, including Los Angeles, 12% of movers, Sacramento, 11%, and Santa Cruz, 4%. Others have moved to more affordable towns on the outskirts of the Bay Area, such as Tracy or Hollister, Braid said. I did a podcast not long ago where a lot of people are moving inland in California. So you've got real population because that's where things are affordable. You're still close enough in for the employment centers. You got a big commute, but that's where the affordability factor is, because you've got no affordability in San Francisco. And some might say your quality of life playing that dodge the human fecal matter on the sidewalk isn't as great as where you go inland and you get more of a normal environment, but you don't have to worry about the cracked out tweakers, right? You don't have to worry about, all the craziness that you're seeing in San Francisco right now. Russell Hancock, chief executive of the civic nonprofit joint venture Silicon Valley, said that even as more white-collar workers move out and tech companies have shed thousands of local employees this year, the Bay Area remains a locus for innovation. Yes, it does. And yes, it will moving forward, but it's undergoing changes. You've already got the basis. You've got the nucleus for all of this crazy, for, Silicon Valley, for the whole tech industry, for all of that. That is there. That is not going away. It's kind of like Seattle. Yeah, we've had thousands of people laid off in the tech sector, Amazon, Facebook, you name it. They're laying off people, but they also took on thousands of people during the pandemic because we all just went crazy online, buying stuff and on Facebook nonstop, on Twitter, on Instagram, because a lot of folks were stuck at home. That's when I started daily podcasting. I was like, yeah, I am not going to be sitting around with my thumb, where. I'm going to do something, because I thought real estate was going to get shut down. It felt like real estate was going to get shut down here in Washington, but it didn't. In fact, we just exploded. But by then I was already like, F it. I'm just going to podcast daily. Let's see what that looks like. Here we are. Yes, people are leaving, but companies are not. And that's very significant, Hancock said. Well, here's the spin on, glass is half full. A notable exception, Tesla, which moved its headquarters to Texas, but still maintains a sizable workforce in the region. Yep. But fewer people coming into work, even on an occasional basis, means those companies are cutting office space and their employees are spending less at shops, restaurants, and bars in local centers. And that is your doom loop, because then those businesses can't afford their employees. And if they get broken into enough, you got enough crazy people on the sidewalk, they can't make a go of it. Maybe they could pre-pandemic because they've got all the folks walking around, the foot traffic that you need to make a go of it. Now you don't have that. Now you got less people coming in. Now you've got fewer employees you're able to afford. Your business model goes sideways. Yeah. There you go. We're not generating sales tax the way we used to, and there is a doom loop for our downtowns, he said. Already, most of the region's major cities, including San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco, are projecting budget shortfalls next year. I think San Fran is at $800 million already, right? And the hit to city coffers could make it difficult to alleviate homelessness and crime, which Ray said the Institute has found are among the issues most concerning residents and business owners about Bay Area cities. I believe, speaking of crime, Paul Pelosi and his attacker, I think the next court date is coming up on that attacker. There was no real new news on that whole deal. I think they're still sorting that out. They're waiting for a court date on David DePape. Is that his? I can't remember. But yeah, we've got that one. That one's out there. People are always asking, what happened with that? And I'm kind of like, what did happen with that? Did that get swept under the rug? No, it's going through the criminal system and they're dealing with it. Raid said cities are looking at new ideas to reinvigorate downtowns, including converting empty office buildings into housing. San Francisco's looking, or was it San Francisco or is it Portland? They're looking at student housing for universities. Bring your school in here. It's going to be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. But you can't convert empty office buildings into housing. That is not going to work because people in these environments don't want to live there. We're seeing San Francisco had a major 44-story building, proposed building that was going to be condos, got scaled down to studios to try and make the economics work. They just basically gave that building back this week. They said, hey, moving forward, we don't believe in the downtown San Francisco environment. We're going to give this building up. And they did a deed in lieu of foreclosure back to their lender. I think you're going to see more and more of that because the economics that once drove a San Francisco are not there And so from a commercial basis, you're going to see a lot of this, and you're going to see people leaving because that's, if they can go work elsewhere remotely, they're going to, and they don't necessarily want to go back into downtown San Francisco because you've got all this craziness going on. And now you'll have fewer tax dollars coming through to pay for policing, to pay for, mental health care, people with issues and all of this stuff that goes into the cycle of what's making San Francisco not as rosy as it once looked. People they're not wanting to do it. And they are, proving it with our demographics. But with more office leases set to expire in the coming years and many small businesses hanging on by a thread, civic leaders will likely need to act fast to prevent a downward spiral. We might be heading for a much worse budget deficit by 2025, she said. I don't think we might. I think we will. And you know what? Make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell because I'm going to cover it all right here for you on News for Reasonable People. Thanks for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.